Open this, and I'll give you $100 million. The billionaire sneered at the cleaning woman. Her daughter stepped forward, and the laughter died. In the heart of Manhattan, 57 floors above the city that never sleeps, Rashid Al Karim's private boardroom had become a pressure cooker about to explode. The vault stood like a silent executioner in the center of the room. Steel, chrome, biometric, impenetrable. Behind it, the skyline glittered with the lights of a world that was moving forward without him. Asian markets would open in 43 minutes. After that, the largest clean energy partnership in history would collapse, taking Rashid's reputation with it. Inside that vault was a single document. No backup, no digital copy. A deliberate choice that now felt like arrogance coming home to roost. 3 governments, 2 sovereign wealth funds, $40 billion in capital, all bound by signatures on paper that might as well have been on the moon. His engineering team had tried everything: codes, overrides, manual releases, emergency protocols. Nothing. The biometric scanner that had worked flawlessly for 3 years now mocked them with its blinking red light. His executives stood in their $1,000 suits, looking like pallbearers at a funeral they hadn't expected to attend. Rashid Al Karim was not a man who accepted failure. At 48, he had built an empire by bending the world to his will. Oil, real estate, technology, he conquered markets the way generals conquered nations. He wore his white thobe like armor, his dark eyes scanning for weakness in others the way a predator scans for prey. But the vault refused to bend. "This is impossible," one executive muttered, his voice tight with panic. "The system was tested yesterday." Rashid said nothing. His jaw was clenched so hard it ached. Rage simmered beneath his calm exterior, looking for a target, hungry for someone to blame. That's when the boardroom doors opened. Sophia Reyes stepped inside, her cleaning cart rattling softly against the marble floor. She froze when she saw the room full of powerful men staring at a safe like it had betrayed them all. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly, already backing toward the door. "I didn't know anyone was here." Behind her stood a small figure in a Navy school uniform, braided blonde hair, quiet blue eyes, hands folded. The girl looked around the room with the careful stillness of someone used to being invisible. Rashid turned slowly. His gaze moved from Sophia's worn blue uniform to the child half hidden behind her mother's cart. Something ugly twisted in his chest. An opportunity, a release valve for the pressure building inside him. "No," he said, his voice cutting through the nervous whispers. "Stay." Sophia stiffened. She knew that tone. It was the tone men used when they wanted to make you small. Rashid walked toward the vault and placed his palm on the cold steel, savoring the theatrical moment. "This safe," he announced to the room, his voice dripping with mockery, "has defeated my security specialists, men who earn more in a month than most people see in a year." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter followed. He turned to Sophia, and his smile was not kind. "You clean this room every night. You must have noticed something. Some little detail these expensive experts missed." Sophia shook her head, heat rushing to her face. "Sir, I just clean. I don't know anything about." "Then let me make this interesting," Rashid interrupted, his voice rising with cruel pleasure. He gestured grandly at the vault. "Open it, and I will personally give you $100 million. The room exploded in laughter. Sophia felt the eyes on her like physical weight. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't a real offer. It was a performance. She was the punchline. "Please," she whispered. "I can't." "And if you fail," Rashid added, his tone suddenly ice cold, "you and your cleaning company are finished here. I'll make sure every building in this city knows your name." Sophia couldn't breathe. The humiliation, the threat, the cruel impossibility of it all pressed down on her like a collapsing roof. Before she could speak, a small, steady voice cut through the laughter. "My mom can't." The laughter spiked higher, sharper. "But I can." Silence fell like a guillotine blade. Rashid turned. He looked down at the girl with the braided blonde hair and the unnervingly calm blue eyes. "You?" he said, his voice laced with disbelief and dark amusement. The girl nodded once. Rashid chuckled, a low, dangerous sound. "This keeps getting better." He waved his hand dismissively. "By all means, show us what a child can do where men have failed." Sophia grabbed her daughter's arm. "No, sweetheart, please, we're leaving." The girl, her name was Anya, gently pulled free from her mother's grip. She walked toward the vault. Not fast, not slow, calm as still water. And in the luxury boardroom overlooking Manhattan, with 43 minutes until everything collapsed, the most powerful man in the room was about to learn that the most dangerous thing you can do is underestimate someone who has learned to see what others ignore. The vault had never failed before. That was the part Rashid could not accept. It stood in the center of the boardroom like a silent judge. Steel body, digital keypad, manual wheel, fingerprint scanner. The kind of safe designed not just to protect wealth, but to intimidate anyone who dared look at it. Behind it, Manhattan stretched toward the heavens, glass and steel glowing in the dying afternoon sun. The world was moving. Markets were opening. Time was bleeding away. "This is impossible," one executive muttered, rubbing his temples. "The biometric scan worked perfectly yesterday." Rashid said nothing. His arms were crossed beneath his white thobe, jaw tight, eyes dark with a fury that had nowhere to go. Inside the vault was a single folder, no backup copy, no cloud upload, a deliberate decision made in arrogance. The final signature that would bind 3 governments, 2 sovereign wealth funds, and Rashid's company into the largest clean energy partnership in history. Without it, the deal died. Without the deal, Rashid's reputation died with it. The room buzzed with nervous laughter, whispered excuses, half-formed solutions that went nowhere. Rashid felt something ugly rising in his chest. Not fear, rage. Sophia stood frozen near the door, her cleaning cart suddenly feeling like a spotlight shining on her poverty. Her daughter Anya remained still behind her, watching everything with those quiet, observant eyes. Rashid finally turned toward them. He looked at Sophia's faded uniform, then at Anya's worn school shoes. Something twisted inside him. An outlet. A way to reassert control. "Well," he said slowly, his voice carrying across the room, "this should be enlightening." A few executives glanced at each other. One smiled nervously. Sophia stiffened. "Sir, I can come back later. We don't want to." "No," Rashid interrupted, his voice sharp. "Stay." He stepped toward the vault and rested his palm on the cold steel, his movements theatrical, deliberate. "This safe," he announced loudly, "has defeated my security team. Men paid more in a month than most people earn in a year." A ripple of uneasy laughter followed. Rashid turned to Sophia, his eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. "You clean this room every night," he said. "You must have picked up something. Some little trick. Some secret." Sophia shook her head quickly. "I just clean, sir. I don't know anything about." "Then let's make this simple," Rashid interrupted again, gesturing grandly to the vault. "Open it, and I'll give you $100 million. The room exploded in laughter. Sophia felt heat rush to her face. Her heart pounded like a drum. This wasn't real. It was humiliation dressed as generosity. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't know anything about vaults. I can't. And if you can't, Rashid added calmly, his smile widening, you and your cleaning company are done here. Finished. Sophia's breath caught. The threat was real. The laughter around her felt like walls closing in. She was the punchline. The vault was the stage. The executives were the audience. And Rashid Al-Karim was the ringmaster, feeding on her powerlessness. The bet was never about money. It was about dominance. About reminding everyone in the room who held the power and who existed only to serve. Sophia couldn't speak, couldn't move. She felt her daughter's hand slip into hers, small and warm, and it only made the shame burn hotter. Then Anya's voice cut through the cruelty. My mom can't. The laughter spiked instantly, louder now, sharper. The executives found this even more entertaining. A child joining the circus. But I can. The laughter stopped, like someone had cut the sound. Rashid turned slowly, his expression shifting from amusement to pure theatrical delight. He looked down at the small girl with braided blonde hair and steady blue eyes. You? He said, his voice dripping with mock wonder. Anya nodded once. Calm, unshaken, Rashid laughed. A deep, booming sound that echoed off the glass walls. This keeps getting better and better. He looked at his executives, spreading his arms wide. First the maid, now her child. What's next? Should we ask the janitor? Maybe the doorman has the answer? The room erupted again. Some executives were laughing so hard, they wiped tears from their eyes. Rashid waved his hand dismissively at Anya. Go ahead, little one. Show us what brilliance looks like. Sophia grabbed Anya's arm, panic flooding her chest. No, sweetheart, stop. This isn't a game. Please, sir, she's just a child. She doesn't understand. Oh, I think she understands perfectly, Rashid interrupted, his voice cold now. The offer stands. She opens it. You both walk away rich. She fails. You both walk away unemployed. He leaned forward slightly, his smile cruel. Your daughter accepted the challenge. Let's see if she's smarter than my engineers. The executives backed away from the vault, still chuckling, still shaking their heads at the absurdity. Sophia felt tears burning behind her eyes. This was a nightmare. A public execution disguised as entertainment. Anya, please, she whispered desperately. Let's just go home. Anya gently pulled her hand free from her mother's grip. She turned and looked up at Sophia with a calm that didn't belong to a 10-year-old child. It's okay, Mama, she said softly. I can help. She turned toward the vault. Not running, not hesitating, just walking with the kind of focus that made the laughter in the room slowly die down. The executives watched, confused now. The joke was supposed to end with tears and apologies, but this child wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was studying. Anya stopped in front of the massive steel vault. She didn't touch it. She just looked. At the keypad, at the fingerprint scanner, at the worn edges of certain numbers, at the smudges only visible in the right light. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Something had shifted, though no one could name it yet. Rashid crossed his arms, his smile still in place but his eyes narrowing slightly, because for the first time in his life, someone in his boardroom wasn't afraid of him. Anya stood perfectly still in front of the vault, her small frame dwarfed by the towering steel monument. She didn't touch it, not yet. She was looking, really looking. One of the younger executives snickered. What's she doing? Praying to it? Another laughed. Maybe she's waiting for it to open by magic. Rashid watched her, amused but curious. The child's stillness was unusual. Most people, when put on the spot, rushed, panicked, performed. But this girl was calm, Anya tilted her head slightly, studying the keypad. Then she looked at the executives standing nearby. Then at Rashid. "You tried the same code many times," she said quietly. The room went still. An executive scoffed. "Kid, we tried hundreds of combinations. You don't know what you're right-handed," Anya continued, looking directly at Rashid. "And impatient." Rashid's smile faltered. Anya pointed at the keypad. "These numbers are more worn. This one especially." Her finger hovered over the number 7. "You press it harder because it comes last in the sequence." The executives exchanged glances. A few leaned closer to the keypad. She was right. The number 7 was noticeably more worn than the others. "Lucky guess," someone muttered. Anya shook her head. "And you didn't wait long enough between attempts." One of the security specialists stepped forward, his face flushing. "That's ridiculous. The system doesn't have a cooldown period. There's no wait time programmed." "Not the system," Anya said softly. "You." She looked at Rashid again, her blue eyes steady and unflinching. "You got frustrated. You kept trying the code faster and faster. But the scanner needs time to reset after a failed fingerprint. Just 2 seconds. You were only waiting 1. Rashid felt something cold creep up his spine. She wasn't guessing. She was reading him. "How could you possibly know that?" he asked, his voice quieter now, the mockery draining away. "I watched," Anya said simply. "When you tried it earlier, before we came in, you were standing by the window, and I saw you through the glass door." One executive whispered to another. A third checked his watch nervously. Anya turned back to the vault. "And you always use the same password for everything. The year you started your company." Rashid's jaw clenched. That was true. It was a weakness he knew he had but never bothered to fix. Why would he? No one dared challenge him. "The vault isn't broken," Anya said, her small voice filling the massive room. "You're just moving too fast for it." She placed her hand gently on the keypad. "I can open it," she said, "but you have to let me try it my way." For the first time in the entire ordeal, Rashid Al-Karim had no response. The girl wasn't intimidated. She wasn't performing. She was teaching. And he, the billionaire who had crushed competitors and bent governments to his will, realized he was about to become her student. If you're hooked on where this is going, tap that like button and subscribe, because this story is about to take a turn no one in that boardroom saw coming. Anya stood before the keypad, her small fingers hovering over the numbers. The executives had stopped laughing. Now they just watched, a mixture of curiosity and skepticism on their faces. Rashid remained silent, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "The code is 1997, Anya said calmly. "The year you founded Al-Karim Holdings." One executive's eyebrows shot up. Another pulled out his phone, likely checking the company's founding date. "But that's not why it's not working," Anya continued. She looked at Rashid. "You have to wait 2 full seconds between the code and the fingerprint." Rashid's jaw tightened. This child was dismantling him piece by piece in front of his entire team. Anya entered the code slowly, deliberately. 1997. The keypad beeped softly. Then she stepped back and looked at Rashid. "Now you, but count to 2 first." Slowly. The room held its breath. Rashid stepped forward, his pride warring with his desperation. 38 minutes until the Asian markets opened. 38 minutes until everything collapsed. He pressed his thumb against the scanner. Nothing happened. "You didn't wait," Anya said gently. "You have to start over." A muscle twitched in Rashid's jaw, but he nodded. Anya entered the code again. 1997. The beep. "Now count," she said. 1, 2. Rashid placed his thumb on the scanner. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the vault beeped. Not the angry rejection tone they'd heard 100 times today. A different sound. A welcoming sound. The biometric lock disengaged with a metallic click that echoed through the silent boardroom like a gunshot. Then came the sound that changed everything. The manual wheel unlocked. The heavy steel mechanism inside the vault shifted, tumblers falling into place with the finality of a judge's gavel. Every person in the room froze. Rashid stared at the vault, his hand still on the fingerprint scanner, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Anya reached up and turned the wheel. It moved smoothly, effortlessly. She pulled. The vault door swung open. Inside, bathed in the vault's internal lighting, lay a single black folder. The document that would save or destroy a $40 billion deal. The document that had been unreachable for 6 hours. Opened by a 10-year-old girl in less than 3 minutes. No one spoke. No one moved. The laughter that had filled the room minutes ago was gone, replaced by a silence so profound it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. Rashid stood frozen, staring at the open vault, at the folder, at the small girl who had done what his entire security team could not. Power shifted in that moment, not gradually, instantly. The joke had collapsed. The cruelty had backfired. The room that had mocked now witnessed something they couldn't explain, couldn't dismiss, couldn't laugh away. Rashid Al-Karim, the man who controlled billions, who bent markets to his will, who had never met a problem money couldn't solve, felt something he hadn't experienced in years. True loss of control. The vault was open. But something else had closed. His certainty that authority equaled intelligence, that power meant understanding, that the people he paid to be invisible had nothing to teach him. An executive finally broke the silence. "How did you—" Anya looked at him with those calm blue eyes. "I watched, and I waited. That's all." Sophia stood near the door, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. And Rashid Al-Karim realized that the most expensive lesson of his life had just been taught by a child he'd tried to humiliate. The silence in the boardroom was suffocating. Rashid stared at Anya, then at Sophia, then back at the open vault. His mind replayed the last hour. The cruelty, the mockery, the public humiliation he'd orchestrated with such casual viciousness. All of it was now reflecting back at him in front of witnesses. He'd weaponized Sophia's poverty, her powerlessness, her invisibility. He'd turned her fear into entertainment for bored executives who'd failed him. And her daughter had just proven that the smartest person in the room wasn't the one with the most degrees or the highest salary. It was the one who'd learned to watch quietly. The vault had never been about security systems or technology failures. It had been testing something else entirely: arrogance. The people he'd dismissed, the ones who cleaned his floors and emptied his trash, they saw things he didn't because they'd spent their lives observing without being noticed. They'd learned to read people, to understand patterns, to see the truth hiding in plain sight. While he'd been too busy performing power to actually pay attention, Rashid felt his anger draining away, replaced by something unfamiliar and deeply uncomfortable: shame. He looked at his executives. Not one of them would meet his eyes. They stared at their shoes, at the floor, at the skyline, anywhere but at him. The boardroom felt smaller now. The glass walls that had always made him feel like a king surveying his domain now felt like a fishbowl, exposing him to judgment he couldn't escape. One executive cleared his throat. "Sir, we should probably get out," Rashid said quietly. "Sir, all of you, leave, now." The executives didn't need to be told twice. They filed out quickly, quietly, grateful to escape the tension. Within seconds, only 4 people remained in the vast boardroom: Rashid, Sophia, Anya, and the open vault that had exposed more than its contents. Sophia was shaking, her arms wrapped around herself, clearly terrified about what would happen next. Rashid walked slowly to the window, his back to them. Manhattan glittered below, indifferent to the small human drama playing out 57 floors above the street. "I made you an offer," he said, his voice rough. "In front of witnesses." Sophia's breath hitched. $100 million if your daughter could open the vault. He turned to face them. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes had changed. The cruel amusement was gone. "A man is only as good as his word," Rashid said quietly. "My father taught me that. I seem to have forgotten it." He looked at Anya, really looked at her, seeing her for the first time. "You're a remarkable child," he said, "and I'm a fool." He had a choice in this moment. He could break his word, claim it was a joke, find some technicality to escape the consequences of his arrogance. Or he could be the man he'd always claimed to be, a man of honor, no matter the cost. Rashid pulled his phone from his pocket. Sophia flinched, expecting security to be called, expecting this small miracle to be snatched away. Instead, Rashid dialed a number. "David? This is Rashid. I need you to arrange an immediate wire transfer. $100 million. Sophia's knees nearly gave out. "No, I'm not joking," Rashid continued, his eyes on Sophia. "The recipient is Sophia Reyes. I'll send you her information. I need it done tonight. Before markets open." He paused. "Yes, I'm certain. Do it." He ended the call. The room spun around Sophia. This couldn't be real. Men like Rashid Al-Karim didn't honor bets made in mockery. They didn't hand fortunes to cleaning women. "Sir, you don't have to," she began, her voice breaking. "Yes, I do," Rashid interrupted firmly. "I made a promise. In front of witnesses, your daughter fulfilled the terms. The money is yours." He walked to his desk and pulled out a leather-bound notepad. "My assistant will contact you tomorrow. You'll need legal representation, financial advisors, people you can trust." Sophia couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Tears poured down her face. $100 million. The medical bills that had haunted her for 3 years. The debt that grew faster than she could pay it. The fear that kept her awake every night, wondering if she'd live long enough to see Anya graduate high school. All of it. Gone. Erased in a single phone call. But Rashid wasn't finished. "Your medical situation," he said quietly. "Cancer, correct?" Sophia's eyes widened. How did he know? "I pay attention when it matters," Rashid said, answering her unspoken question. "Your supervisor mentioned it when explaining why you needed the night shift." He picked up his phone again. "My company maintains relationships with the best oncologists in the world. As of now, you have full access to the Al-Karim Executive Health Program. Every treatment, every specialist, everything." He paused. "And your existing medical debt will be cleared by end of week." Sophia collapsed into a chair, her whole body shaking with sobs. Not sobs of joy, sobs of release. Years of carrying impossible weight, of choosing between medicine and food, of lying awake, calculating which bill to pay first, all of it dissolving in minutes. Anya moved to her mother's side, wrapping her small arms around Sophia's shoulders. The executives who'd been dismissed were watching through the glass walls, their faces stunned. Power was reshaping itself in real time, and they were witnessing something they'd never seen before. Accountability. A billionaire honoring a promise made in arrogance, accepting the consequences of his cruelty, and paying a debt that went far beyond money. "Why?" Sophia finally managed to ask through her tears. "Why are you doing this?" Rashid looked at Anya. then back at Sophia. "Because your daughter taught me something tonight," he said quietly. "She taught me that the most important promises are the ones we make when we think no one's watching." He walked to the vault and retrieved the black folder, the document that would save his $40 billion deal. "I built an empire," he said, "but I forgot how to see people." He looked at the folder in his hands. "This deal will make me richer, more powerful." He set it down. "But what happened here tonight? This matters more." For the first time in his life, Rashid Al-Karim understood that some debts couldn't be calculated in spreadsheets, and some lessons were worth far more than the billions they cost. 3 hours later, the deal was signed. The Asian markets opened to news of the historic clean energy partnership. Rashid's phone exploded with congratulations from world leaders and business titans. But he sat alone in his boardroom, staring at the closed vault. It didn't intimidate him anymore. The biometric scanner, the steel walls, the complex mechanisms designed to keep people out. All of it had been defeated by a child who simply paid attention. Rashid understood now. The vault had never been the real test. He had been. The most dangerous vault wasn't made of steel. It was made of ego, sealed by arrogance, locked from the inside. Anya hadn't defeated his security system. She'd exposed his blindness. She'd shown him that the people he'd trained himself not to see were the ones who saw everything. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant confirming that Sophia's wire transfer had cleared. Another confirming her medical debt had been paid in full. $100 million. The most expensive lesson of his life, and somehow the cheapest. Rashid stood and walked to the window. Somewhere in the city below, Sophia Reyes was no longer a cleaning woman struggling to survive. She was a woman with choices, freedom, a future. She'd left his building not invisible, but finally seen. He thought about the man he'd been 6 hours ago. Cruel, impatient, certain that money and power made him superior to everyone around him. That man was gone. Rashid didn't suddenly become a saint. He didn't transform into some benevolent philanthropist overnight. But he became quieter, more observant, changed. He started noticing the people who cleaned his buildings, who served his coffee, who worked in silence around him. He learned their names, asked about their lives, and he discovered a truth that seemed impossible. The world became richer when you stopped treating people as invisible. The vault stood silent in the center of the boardroom, its door closed once more. But Rashid Al-Karim had learned to open something far more important: his eyes. The story was never about a vault or $100 million. It was about who gets heard and who finally learns to listen. It was about a child who saw patterns in a billionaire's impatience, and a man who discovered that the greatest power isn't control, it's humility. If this story made you think differently about the people around you, hit that subscribe button. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the quietest voices, and we've got more stories that'll remind you why paying attention matters. Drop a comment and let me know what you were doing while listening. This is the kind of story that sticks with you, and I'd love to know if it hit home.